A little cut here. Flip it up, clean it up, give it a good scrub with a betadine solution, a little iodine shampoo. I like putting ointments on first, something moist for the first few days. It kind of promotes healing, allows those cells to stay well hydrated, and bandaging usually initially. Especially with this weather right now, you're not keeping those horses out of the mud, and it's nice to keep them all clean. They stand in stalls all day, they're exposed to manure. We just have to deal with what we got. So I'm going to pretend this is a left leg. So this would be the outside of the leg, and this would be the inside. So outside versus inside. There is a generalized rule on which way to use the wrap. So that's why I'm specifying inside and outside. And when you guys get out there and are able to practice a little bit, you guys will get a good idea of what that is. So, depending on the wound, I can put a non-stick pad on there. So when I pull off this wrap, it doesn't pull off any clot or anything else. It just protects it and allows the cells that are starting to come across and heal to stay where they need to instead of me pulling off and ripping it off every time. So, to do a horse, obviously you want to be very careful with where you're standing because horses don't always enjoy having their legs wrapped. So, always be careful. What you're going to do is you're going to take the cotton roll and go from the outside to the inside. Thing that my mom actually taught me is that you bring the tendons in. Always roll the tendons in. So the tendons are on the back of the leg. You roll towards the inside. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's a little thing that I keep in my head every single time I put a bandage on a horse, even to this day. That was just there. And you just keep the cotton nice and flat, trying to minimize too many wrinkles. If you get too many wrinkles or things get bunched and you put the vet wrap over there, that's a point of pressure that can cause sores. So we always want to do good. We don't want to do any harm. So doing bandaging properly is really important so you're not causing more sores for a little scraper wound that, is probably not as big a deal. I'm going to finish wrapping. I really like this cotton roll. There's plenty of different things that are out there to do bandaging on. This, I think, flies nice and flat. Pretty easy to put around. Works pretty darn well. So this is vet wrap. Same rule as the cotton. You can kind of see, pass this around a little bit, and you'll be sitting over there. See how it's kind of puckered? And when I stretch it out, you kind of lose some of the pucker. That's one of my rules of thumb for when I'm putting bandaging on. I want it to be tight enough where I lose some of the pucker.
Oh, okay.
Kind of see. So how tight do you feel? About there. Yeah, about there. And when you guys, if you have to bandage a horse, you'll kind of start getting the feel. And once you do a few, you'll have a really good feel.
Question? Is that type of horse specific or for any animal too?
Pretty much for any animal, yeah. And it depends on what you're wrapping too. So if I'm wrapping a tail, I'm a little bit more careful because you want to always make sure you've got something underneath. Don't use vet wrap just on top of a horse. It can cause too much pressure without the cushion of the cotton underneath it. So I just hold it. I kind of get a good grip so I don't lose it here. I pull it out and get the pucker out, and then I wrap around. And the first one is always the hardest. For me, I always go slightly up and then down and then back. That's just my personal habit. You just want to have a nice even layer of that wrap. You want it to overlap as you kind of candy cane it or barber pull it up and down so there's about a half the width of the vet wrap, kind of each overlapping layer. I always leave a little bit of cotton at the top just to make sure you don't get that layer of vet wrap with no cotton underneath it. So you guys can see I'm kind of pull out, wrap around, pull out, wrap around. Mike's doing a really good job trying to keep it quiet. The horse is not trying to kick me yet. So you guys can kind of see here. You see how I have the top of this about at the halfway point. It's probably hard to see from far away. About at the halfway point there.
So those wrinkles aren't too much?
Nope, this is good. And these little wrinkles here on the
So I
vet wrap.
meant in the cotton.
No, this is just fine. And there's also points that you have to be careful with joints as far as locations. Hocks, as these guys well know because they had to bandage Bob, hocks are tough.
Yeah.
It's a high motion joint, there's a lot of movement there. It's hard to get things moved. You just do the best you can and try to that up looser over things like that. On the front legs, on the carpet, there's a little bone called the accessory carpal bone that sticks out the back a little bit. That's another bone that we try to wrap a little bit looser over to allow them not to have as much pressure on those that stick out. So those are the little things that you get as you do more of these and have more experience. But for basics, usually these nice lower limb bandages go over pretty darn well. Same rule on the bottom, little bit of cotton sticking out. And it's nice when it ends up in a nice spot where you feel like I've gone up and down the leg pretty evenly and everything feels really well covered. That wrap's really fun because these little ends can sometimes start peeling off. So I like to put a little piece of tape there. Again, you have to be very careful with not putting the tape too tight or using a tape that has some elasticity to it. But it's just nice to kind of keep this flat and keep it from unraveling because I need to do all the work that you work so hard to put that on.